To sing this beautiful song, here is Don Cornell.
It isn't fair for you to taunt me. How can you make me care this way? It isn't fair for you to want me if it's just for a day. It isn't fair for you to thrill me.
Okay, hey you fans of popular culture of the 20th century, especially you fans of James Dean ephemera. I'm over here. I'm in Westwood Village, where James Dean lived for 6 months at the Sigma Nu fraternity house from September 1950 to approximately March 1951. He was 19 years old. But before I go to where he lived at the Sigma Nu fraternity house, I want everybody to see all over the world the Westwood Fox Theater, built in 1930, where James Dean on September 17th saw himself at a Warner Brothers sneak preview for Rebel Without a Cause. Now, I thought it was ironic that this is where he broke into show business while he was living here in Westwood Village, because when he was living here, this is where he was going, obviously, to see movies for the 6 months that he was living here. And then 5 years later, on September 17th, here he sees himself, possibly the last film ever in his life, because a week later he died outside of Paso Robles, California, September 30th. So here you go, the Westwood Village Fox Theater, built in 1930, and here is the Bruin Theater. I think this was built in 1935. And if you're a fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's where Margot Robbie, who was playing Sharon Tate, there's a shot of her coming in here to see herself in The Wrecking Crew with Dean Martin. And I just wanted to interpolate, when Sharon Tate was practicing to do that film, The Wrecking Crew, Bruce Lee he's the one that taught her all those moves, those martial arts moves in that movie, The Wrecking Crew. Okay, let's go. Now, Jimmy, his parents, his dad and his stepmom, they moved to Reseda, 14 miles away from Westwood here. They were actually living in Santa Monica, and at that time, Jimmy only had a Vespa scooter, so he couldn't be coming back and forth all the way every day to school. So what he did was, when he started matriculating here, registering, he registered, and what he said was he wanted to join a fraternity. And when you join a fraternity, you could actually live on the premises. So when he filled out the application, he said he was going for pre-law, because that's what his dad wanted him to major in. And he said that he had won awards, and he was an accomplished athlete in Fairmont, Indiana. If you're a fan, you would know that. And so they accepted him. They liked the fact that he was pre-law, but he actually he wanted to be a theater arts major. So every semester, UCLA put on 4 productions, and out of 367 people auditioning, he got Malcolm, the role, the King of King Duncan, and he ended up doing 3 performances in the evening, and he did 1 matinee. And at that period, these fellows at this, where I'm going to take you to the Sigma Nu fraternity house, they didn't like the fact that they didn't want people in the theater arts program. They wanted what they called establishment, organization man. And now he got lucky because there was one other fellow pledge for Sigma Nu, and his name was James Bella. His dad was a famous James Warner Bella, and he was a screenwriter. His dad would in 1961 write The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Well, he was transferring from Johns Hopkins from Baltimore, and he was another pledge for the Sigma Nu. And because he was from a prominent Hollywood family, he had an agent named Isabella Dressimer, and she told James Bella, can you find me some young men and young ladies that look between 16 and 18, so we don't have to deal with child labor laws. I need 30 kids to show up at the merry-go-round in Griffith Park, because we're going to do a Pepsi-Cola commercial, and please tell your friends that this is a great way to get their union card. Now at that time, if you wanted to get in films, you had to have a union card, but in order to get a union card, you had to have a job in a movie. Well, that was quite the conundrum, but Isabella told James Bella that was a backdoor way to get in the movies, and it was a fantastic way to start out in the movie industry. Now this is where he lived, Sigma Nu Fraternity House, that building right there. And I was concerned because every time I come, they're tearing down these buildings, as you can see. Now this is original from 1940, and then I found out this is one of the last fraternity houses too, right here, built in 1930 right here. Now if you're into architecture, that's what they call French Norman farm. Okay, so Jimmy, he lived here. There was a section in the dormitory right there for 8 pledges. And when James Bella, when he came here, he said he walked in that door right there, and he said the first person he saw was Jimmy. He was vacuuming the floor, and he said that Jimmy smiled with a big grin, nodded. He said, "Hi, my name is Dean." Okay, so Jimmy was very, very eccentric, James Bella said, and he was non-org. He was eccentric. He was odd. They said an odd duck. And when he couldn't get roles in productions that he was trying out for here at UCLA, he would get really depressed, and he'd get drunk, and he would hardly come out of his room. And then, or actually the dorm that he shared with 8 other pledges, and he actually had this quirk that he was always drawing bloody eyeballs floating in space, and they said that was kind of weird too. Now this address right here is 601 Gailey Avenue. If you're in LA and you want to see where the great James Dean lived, okay, I'm gonna walk up there real quick. I'm over here on the 24th on a Saturday morning, because this traffic is unbelievable. Let's go up. I want to go up that stairwell where Jimmy spent 6 months of his life. Okay, let's as you can see, it's still original, and then it's got the Spanish metalwork right here. This is where Jimmy was living for 6 months. As you can see, it's original. Thankfully it's still here, but like I said, they're tearing everything out, and these are pretty much the last 2 buildings that are still extant, and not very taken care of. But let's go to the door, the original door at least. James Dean, I hope you're in a better place. Okay, at least everything's pretty much original. The concrete from that time period. Okay, we're gonna whip around to the back. I'll show you where he was parking his, obviously, his Vespa that he was tooling around with. Now, when he went and did the Pepsi commercial, he worked for 2 days, had $55 a day, union wages. Now, James Bella, he called up Isabel that night and he told her that kid that I gave you the $1.50 for because that was her agent's fee. Jimmy gave his $1.50 to James Bella to pay for his the fee that Isabella at that time wanted for casting those 30 kids. He called up Isabella that night and he told her, you know what, that kid Jimmy that I room with over here at Sigma Nu, he said they did a close-up with him grabbing the brass ring, and then they also want him to come in tomorrow to do a interior shot of him dancing and doing the jitterbug at a piano. Well, Isabella, she said that she perked up her agent's ears and said this would be the right kid to get. He looks between 16 and 18 and I can make money off him by casting him as a lead juvenile. So after he did the 2 days at Griffith Park, a couple of weeks later they called her, the Jerry Fairbanks studios that produced the Pepsi Cola commercial. They said that kid Jimmy, we were casting him for John the Beloved in a war movie for Father Peyton's TV Playhouse, and it's gonna come out Easter Sunday, March 25th, 1951. So he ended up going there to the Jerry Fairbanks Studios on Sunset, and he worked 5 days, $55 a day. And then because he made a lot of money, he was able to move out of that fraternity house there. Now here we're gonna go whip around to the back. And as you can see, everything is being torn out. And then you have like these people that still live here from another time. There's a lot of old houses, but back here mostly it's pretty much original. So he got his union card, and then in 1950, and then he ended up dropping out March 21st, 1951. And I happen to know that because of all the plays that they had casted him in, or he tried to get casted in. There was one called The Acts of God that it was a one-act play, and the guy was named Richard Eshelman. He was a student playwright. And he said Jimmy was supposed to be in the play March 21st, and then he gave me 7 days, and then he ended up giving me 7 days March 14th. So that's when he dropped out of UCLA. And then when he was living here, he was dating a young gal named Janetta Lewis. And right here's the back part of it. This is where Jimmy would have parked. If you can suspend your disbelief and imagine him parking here in his on his Vespa scooter. Now, if you read the Val Hawley book, the biography, and the Bill Bass book, apparently, I'm going to say, after he did either the Pepsi Cola commercial at Griffith Park or the Hill number 1, he got a used 36 Chevy. So after the money ran out, he got really depressed, and he was always borrowing money to pay the rent with Bill Bass. They ended up getting an apartment together in Santa Monica, and that's another video. So okay, here, let's go around one more time. And this is where he lived, like I said, when he broke into Hollywood. And then Isabel, she ended up getting him 3 known parts in 1951, but she said that she actually got him 9 jobs. But the 3 extant that people have seen him in 1951 was Fixed Bayonets with Richard Basehart, And then Sailor Beware with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And then Has Anybody Seen My Gal with Charles Coburn. Okay, so then he ended up, he needed work, so his friend Bill Bast, he worked at CBS, and Bill Bast ended up helping him get a job at CBS, Columbia Square and Sunset. And then he was actually an usher for a week, but he couldn't take orders. So he ended up parking cars in the back at a place called Ted's Auto Park. And then that's where he met a director for a radio show called Alias Jane Doe. And then he ended up getting him work for a couple of episodes on that radio show, Roger's Bracket. He was well off. And then because Jimmy and Bill Bass, they didn't get along, he ended up moving into the this luxurious apartment on Sunset